Hello everybody. Today we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a nameplate for our team and for a practice to learn how to use CAD work and our 3D printers, and then have a cool kind of piece and project that we're going to work on to learn a bunch of the different tools. This first part, the nameplate, is going to be 3D printed. So we're going to CAD this up and then we're going to print it out on the 3D printers, which should be cool. So the first thing you're going to need to do is, if you don't already have a folder, you're going to go ahead and create a folder for your project. In this case, you're going to go to New Folder up here. And after you do that, you're going to click the folder and you're going to name it something like Locker Nameplate, like I did. Then you're going to double click on the folder and you're going to make sure that, it goes into it. I'm in the team folder, but you'll do this in your own personal folder. I've got two files, but I'm going to go ahead and make a new one. Usually it'll be blank for you if this is your very first one. The first thing on the Untitled that you're going to want to check is that we've got our correct units and our correct orientation for the navigation cube. So in this case, if I check here, I'm actually in millimeters at the moment, and I've got Y up, both of which I actually want to change. So I'm going to do this as a kind of global preference. So I'm going to click on my icon in the corner, go to Preferences, switch this to inches. Now this, I was in here before, it's down at default units. Make sure that I'm in inches. It'll probably pop up for you under general, and that's actually where you're going to go ahead and switch this to Z up and then click OK. Now these attributes won't take effect on this particular Untitled because it's already open. But if I go ahead and close that, then I make a new one with the little plus sign, it's going to then default into my Z up. And if I look at my units, it's at inches now. So to start off, we always begin with a sketch, then extrude, then repeat. So I hit new sketch. I'm going to pick this lower plane, this XY plane, and select it. Then the next thing is we're going to go ahead and select our rectangle tool and click on the origin. You'll notice when I lock to the origin, it shows a little square. I'm going to click on that, move up and to the right. Then before I click again, I'm going to type my first dimension, which is going to be 4 inches. Then I hit tab on the keyboard and I do the second dimension, 2 inches, and then hit enter. You'll notice that the edges of my rectangle are all black, which is because it is fully constrained. If, for example, I had forgotten to do the 2-inch distance before I had clicked or hit enter, then I'd have a blue line for part of my rectangle. And so in this case, I would need to go to dimension, click on the blue line, click on the black line at the bottom, then click on the left. It's already sitting at 2 inches, but it could have been something else. And then I would just hit type 2 and hit enter. After that, I'll finish the sketch. I'm going to go back to my home view, and then I'm going to extrude using the extrude tool and pull this up 0.1 inches. Then click OK. The next thing I'm going to do is create the 1781. Click on that. You'll notice that we flipped 180 degrees upside down. I'm going to actually correct that using the navigation cube. You don't have to. You could technically draw it all in a different orientation. It's not going to matter. But, I'm going to keep my origin in the lower left-hand corner. And it's worthwhile knowing that you can spin your drawing with these 2 little arrows in the corner. So once I've done that, I'm going to click Create and go down and select Text. From here, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Then I'm going to click in the upper left-hand corner. I get the square that locks. Then I'm going to move down and to the right until I lock to this right edge. And then in this case, I'm going to go about 3/4 of the way down and click again. Once I've done that, it'll pop up with this sample text. This is where I'm going to type 1781. Then you can select your font if you'd like, adjust that. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it at Arial. But then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the height of my letters. So in this case, I want these to be about 1¼ inch tall. So I delete that and I'm going to type 1.25. And now my 1781 is much larger. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the alignment. So I want to do center align so that it's centered. And then I'm going to go ahead and do align middle so that I'm kind of not all the way at the top edge. Then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I've got my 1781 sketch. Click Finish Sketch either down here or up here. And go back to my home view. I'm going to go ahead and pick Extrude again. And you'll notice that like it immediately is kind of selected the whole plane, which is not actually what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and unselect that using that little X. And now I'm going to just hover over just to get the 1781 part and click on that. And then I'll lift this up another 0.1 and then click OK. So now I've got 1781, my letters. The next thing I'm going to do another sketch. I'm going to select the bottom edge. In this case, flip around the orientation. And now I'm going to go ahead and select text again. Go to the origin this time. Lock onto the origin. And then come up to that same little point over on the right hand side. And then click. Now, for this text, it's going to default to my last settings. So I'm going to end up changing those. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to type my name now. So I'm going to go ahead, or a nickname or something, whatever I want on the plate. So I'm going to go ahead and type the bearded one. And now I'm going to change the font size. And go ahead and go to like 1/4 inch, and then I see like, oh, I could actually make this a bit bigger. So I might adjust and then say like, well, I can fit it, or if it's 0.35. And so in this case, the name fills up that space pretty nicely. I'm center aligned and such, so that looks pretty good. If I wanted to, once again, I could go ahead and change the font that I want my name to be in. So let's say, go to some kind of brush script, for example. The one thing that you got to be a little bit careful about is that the printer can only do so detailed. And so if you have like a little bitty little arc like this, it may not actually print. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go back to just regular Arial and not mess around with, the other fonts. I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK on there and then say Finish Sketch. Go back to my home view and now extrude. I'm going to hover over the letters, click on them, pull the extrusion up 0.1 and click OK. Now the last thing we're going to do is add the holes for this. So I'm going to start one more sketch, click on the top face of the plate, and this time I don't really care that it's upside down because I'm not typing anything. And the first thing I'm going to do is create construction lines so that I have a midpoint. So I'm going to click on my line tool. I'm going to go over to my dialog box and I'm going to select construction. And once I do that, then when I go to the middle, and I know that I'm in the middle because it locks and it gives me that little triangle icon. I'm going to left click, go across, find the middle point on the other side, and left click again. And because this is a construction line, it's actually just a dotted line instead of a solid line. So then I'll go ahead and I'm going to be done with the line tool. So then I'm going to go to my circle tool. In this case now, I want to actually make these holes. So I'm going to turn off construction, and I'm going to go ahead and click over here, make a circle. The circle diameter, I want a through hole clearance hole for a number 6 screw. So then I'm going to go ahead and type 0.14 and hit enter. Then I'll go to the other side, click again, and do 0.14, enter. Now you'll notice that these little circles are still blue, and that's because while the center of the circle is locked to this line, and I've given the dimension, I have not actually constrained it horizontally. So I'm going to go to my dimensions. I want to click on the center of the circle, click on the right side, back it to the edge of the circle, and then move down. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do 1/8 of an inch off the edge, 0.125. And then I'll hit enter. And it's going to move it to that edge. Then I'll go over to the other one, edge of the circle, sideline, drag my dimension off of the object, 0.125, enter. And then I can finish the sketch. Back to home, extrude. This time I'm going to select both little circles. So I click on one, and then I come over and I click on the second one. And then I'm going to grab the little arrow, and instead of pulling it up this time, I'm going to drag it down. And what it should do is cut holes into the object. So I click OK. And now if I look from the top, I can see the holes that go through, and everything's looking nice. So from there, my nameplate is done as far as the CAD work. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I want to give it a cool name, or an appropriate name. Let's say, Nick name tag. And then hit save. And then you should see over in your data panel your item there. And so now you've CAD'd up your nameplate.